Hey, welcome to our Tuesday afternoon live broadcast. We are live on Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. Thank you so much for jumping in on your mid-afternoon if you're here in the United States, and if you are abroad, welcome to you as well. You're probably joining us in the evening. I always like to ask that you take a second, if you are new, to hit that like button on Facebook or the subscribe button on YouTube. That way you will be notified when we go live, and you will officially be a part of our amazing community here. And then also, as you jump in, if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment, letting me know you're here, where you're tuning in from, and if you have taken one of our courses in the past, that way I can kind of recognize you toward the end. And if you're new to the way we do things here on our live broadcasts, what I like to do is take the subject matter that we are going to speak about it for a few minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then at the end, I go to the comments and I welcome everyone, and we have a very casual conversation amongst girlfriends. So if you're here just for the topic of conversation, you want to hang around for the front half, and if you want to hang around for the social part of it, you're always welcome to stay on, and that's where we'll have a conversation when I go into the comment section. So whatever works for you, definitely feel free to exercise your right to stick around or jump off as needed. Today we are going to talk about intermittent fasting fads and new trends, and whether you should jump in and try them. But before I get into the topic today, I want to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Diane, and for the past 25 years or so, I have been helping women find the perfect nutritional plan for them and kind of shuffle through the gimmicks and the fads, and also help them find fitness programs that will help them look and feel their best and live their most authentic life. And that's exactly what we're trying to do here in this community, and we're doing it primarily with the practice of intermittent fasting and generating a keto-like lifestyle that we can all kind of adhere to while achieving the goals of looking and feeling our best and living our most authentic life. And I have recently become a certified nutrition coach, and just find it fascinating, all of the information that is available out there to us as far as all the new research that's being done nutritionally and all the new sort of trends. I guess it almost doesn't seem like I should even say trends, because it's so much more than trends, with all the research that is now available to us backing up a lot of these new ways of living your life nutritionally. And I say living your life nutritionally because I hope that most of us understand that the diet world is just not anything that's really doable for us anymore, especially for the long term. And a lot of women who are in this community and are looking for something at this stage of their life that they're in, where they're noticing some changes with their hormones and maybe some things that are going on in their body, have really kind of pinpointed that the dieting kind of that we've done most of our adult life as women has really landed us in a place where we are just super confused and frustrated about what we're supposed to do with our food intake. And so we are trying to develop a nutritional lifestyle that we can manage and maintain and be happy with for the duration of our life. So new intermittent fasting diet or nutritional trends and research and all that is going on in today's world, I think is absolutely fascinating. And thank you for Google and the internet making it so easy for us to just quickly jump on and research something and have access to as much information as we need to see if it's something that we think that we need to do for ourselves. And that's exactly what landed me here. When I was feeling sick myself and just not happy with the way my body was working anymore and what I was doing with food, I was super confused because all the intolerance reactions that I was having in my body, I really went into research mode, and I was in a point the first year of trying to cure my body and figure out what I was supposed to be doing with my food and nutritional intake, because nothing was working anymore. And I stumbled across so many different variations of doing what ends up being the same exact thing, but depending on who you're following or who you're researching, they're going to put their own little personal spin or their own personal clinical research into what it is that we're doing. And so I want to really start this off with saying, you do owe yourself the opportunity to get out and do the research, because it is so readily available to us. I mean, we're here because probably we were searching for something that had to do with intermittent fasting, or maybe you're an aging woman and wanted some help with the aging process, and you did a little research, and maybe you stumbled across some videos that I have done. And that's exactly how I stumbled across what it was I was looking for on my own journey. And I just researched and researched and researched and researched until I started finding things that made sense for me. And what ended up happening for me is I took a little bit of information from just about everywhere I researched and started putting it to practical use, and really found some things that worked great for me. And then I found some things that were that seemed like complete nonsense, or just there was no way I could manage that in my life as a lifestyle with a family and a job and all the things that I was doing. It just was way too much work mentally and emotionally and just work-wise. And so that's where I ended up coming up with intermittent fasting for today's aging woman. It is sort of just a conglomeration of a bunch of research that I've done that I put into practical use that actually ended up working. But today what I want to talk to you about is a couple new things that are kind of in the big, buzz of research and searchability on the internet because of some new books that have come out. And then I'm going to throw out to you what the basic philosophies of these things are, and then ask you some questions about whether you think it's going to be doable for your own life. So the first one that I want to talk about, I actually personally think is absolutely fascinating, and that is the fasting mimicking diet, which is not anything that's new, but a book was just released. So now there's a bunch of hype kind of behind it and publicity, because that's what sells books. And so with all due respect, I think it's fantastic. I did some research on it, and I'm going to kind of give you the skinny of what I feel the fasting mimicking diet is, and then have you kind of sit on that for a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about a couple other intermittent fasting kind of protocols. And that's basically all this is, are just different protocols in which you're fasting and feasting, which is what we do all day anyway. So the fasting mimicking diet is a diet that is being developed and researched by Dr. Valter Longo, and he's doing all of his research and studying at USC. Listening to him is fascinating. He's absolutely brilliant. Some of the stuff they talk about does kind of go over my head. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm a certified nutrition coach, and I have plenty of years of experience coaching other women and coaching myself nutritionally through just experimentation and stuff. But they get down to the real nitty-gritty science part of it, which is the fascinating part, and all of the things that they're being able to figure out in a lab and with doing clinical research on not just rats anymore, but on human beings as well. And so the skinny of the fasting mimicking diet is you take 5 days out of a 30-day period and you put yourself in a fasting type environment. And it's not like a liquid fast or a water only fast. It's a reduction of calorie type of situation for a 5-day period. So you're taking about 50% of your caloric intake, and you're starting off your 5-day period. And what's suggested is about 1,100 calories on the first day. And I believe you gradually reduce those calories till you get to day 5. And then you have a very specific refeeding process that gets you back into, eating normally. The fasting mimicking diet is very similar to a lot of other intermittent fasting or fasting type of diets in the fact that you are trying to get your body into ketosis. And so when you're in your calorie consumption or your feasting area of this diet, you are maintaining a very low carb, low protein, high fat type of plate makeup. So you want to try to keep your carbohydrates low and your fat intake high. We know through what we're doing here with intermittent fasting that that's really the way our bodies are designed to eat anyways, because we just operate more efficiently on fat, and we want to keep our glucose levels low, and that's done through being very conscious about your carbohydrate intake. I don't know the gram specifications for this type of diet. I'm sure all that is available in the book, but that's the general idea. The area that this diet concerns me, as with a lot of the other kind of fasting type of diets that are out there on the market, are that what do you do after 5 days? You have 25 more days in your month. What are you supposed to do during that time frame when you're not in the fasting mimicking diet? And the videos that I watched, those days were described as you just go back to what makes you happy, like what your normal lifestyle is. And that's where I always kind of raise like the cautionary flag, like, most people don't know what to do with that other 25 days, or they wouldn't be searching a way to kind of fix what's going wrong with them. And so, like I said, I didn't read the book, so maybe there's a plan in the book of everything you're supposed to do after you're on your 5-day fast. But for the layman or the person who's just like, oh, I heard about this fasting mimicking diet and I think that I want to try it for 5 days, and you reduce your caloric intake, but you're not really comfortable with how you relate to food when you're in your normal environment, then you end up just following another diet where you become this yo-yo faster, as opposed to like a yo-yo dieter, which a lot of us have chronically become through the years. And so you become this faster for 5 days and then a feaster for 25. Now, in the research they did state, or the videos that I did watch about this, they did state that what normally happens to people is that because they're living a high fat, low carbohydrate kind of lifestyle for 5 days, that what naturally happens is that their cravings for sugars decrease because they're eating higher fat, or because they were in ketosis and so they're burning through some of that stored glycogen. Then naturally what happens is that you just become a healthier person. And that's all fine and dandy. But what happens when something in life kind of runs amok and you're not concentrating on what you're doing around your food? Or maybe like a lot of the women that I come across in the community that I have here, is we don't have the healthiest relationship with food. So it goes beyond just a craving, and it becomes something that's a little bit deeper or more personal. And if we don't have the experience to combat those kind of things, then are we going to just become chronic fasters and feasters with really no end in sight of how we can heal our bodies? And so I'm fascinated by the fasting mimicking diet. I think it's absolutely amazing, the work that they're doing and the studies that they're doing. And for me personally, I think that this type of protocol with my fasting would come into play if I were ever in a situation where I was sick, or I was stricken with some sort of cancer, and I wanted to put myself in an environment where I could heal myself at the cellular level. This was a diet that I would totally follow. But I would follow it as a diet and not a lifestyle, and as a way to sort of fix something, and a means to do something drastic to correct something that was not balanced in my body. And so I think for that purpose, for me personally, I would say that would be a time that I would incorporate something like the fasting mimicking diet. Now, there's other fasting type of protocols out there that are, the buzz too. And it's the alternating day type of fasting, which is kind of like this, but you're doing it for a longer period of time. So you feast, you fast, you feast sort of cycle. You feast for 1 day, you fast for 1 day, you feast for 1 day, you fast for 1 day. Again, another one of those type of fasting protocols that I think is fascinating if you have that discipline, or you're doing it for a very specific reason, and you can build your life and your social surroundings and maybe your home life around fasting for an entire day and then feasting for an entire day. And if you have that kind of structure, then that kind of fasting environment might be fantastic to follow. But for, I think, the average person, or a person who wants to live their life socially around food, or wants to incorporate a family life, that alternate day fasting can be that thing where you kind of lose track of, am I fasting today? Am I feasting today? Or you can go several days in a feasting state and then neglect to add in your fasting state, and then you're kind of caught up in this whirlwind of kind of beating yourself up because you weren't successful at something. And then there's also the, and I think this is more like a West Coast trend and like an East Coast trend. I think it's like a big city trend where they're fasting during the week and then feasting on the weekend. Busy professional young people who maybe don't have any kids. I forget what this is called, but so they fast Sunday night to Thursday night because they're busy, dedicated to their jobs and building their careers, and they don't have family matters, that are making them sidetracked. And then they feast on the weekends where their life is more social. So, they can do the happy hour thing, or maybe go have brunch with friends or whatever. And then they feast for 3 days, and then they go back to their Sunday night, and then they fast all week until Thursday, and then they feast again. And again, great theory to it all. And I think the philosophy of it works well, especially if you're busy, because if you're fasting in a very structured environment, there's so many great benefits to it. And then you can kind of let things be what they are on the weekends and kind of, do what you want to do. But again, you have to have that realistic approach to it and a little bit of discipline built around it if other things come into play and you're not in control of that situation. Is it the feast and warrior? Is that what it's called, Karma? When you feast during the week and you fast on the weekend, or you feast on the week and, no, how does it? You feast on the weekends and fast during the week. Yeah, so I think that's fascinating. Man, if I was like in my 20s again, I think I would totally do that. I mean, it sounds absolutely amazing. I don't want to be slowed down by having to eat during the week. I was busy, especially when I was in my Air Force days. That would have been so convenient while I was flying around everywhere and didn't have to worry about taking food with me. That would have been fantastic. And then there is it the 5-1, I think it is, fasting protocol where you eat 500 calories a day and then you fast, or I don't know, something like that. I didn't really study that one too much because it just seemed like way too much for me to actually manage. And a lot of women came to me sort of in a desperate state after following that type of fasting protocol as well, because it's like, how do you manage all those numbers? And are you fasting today? And do you eat 500 calories? And really, what is 500 calories? We're not constantly living in a science lab where we can measure out to the calorie exactly what we're eating. And so these are just some of the very typical type of fasting diet regimens, I guess would be the right word to say, that I know are very popular and are on trend and can kind of trip people up. And I have to, before I close things down, have to also mention the ketogenic diet as well, which is not necessarily fasting, but it does, again, put in a lot of really hard rules that you have to follow in order to truly be successful and keep your body in that ketogenic state and minimizing your carbohydrate intake. And a lot of women try to manage this diet, and without the proper experience or guidance, can go off the deep end with it, because a lot of people come back from a ketogenic diet with the experience of not feeling well because they relied so heavily on animal fat and animal protein to maintain their ketogenic state that they end up making themselves sick because their body just can't handle all of that animal protein. And so again, you're following this diet that's really extreme with a lot of rules, and it's hard to maintain for a lifetime. And then one last one I just remembered is The Metabolic Approach to Cancer, which is a book that I highly recommend for women especially to read. And again, it's one of those concepts of a way of eating to repair your body in a crisis situation. Again, if I had cancer and I was fighting for my life, the metabolic approach to cancer and the fasting mimicking diet, I would probably try to live those out to the letter and do everything I can to save myself nutritionally. But on an everyday basis, it's just not feasible to me as a woman with a family and wanting to live a kind of balanced and emotionally stable way of living around food for me with my own personal food story and some of the things that I've had to deal with. And so that's really where the intermittent fasting and the keto-like lifestyle has come in. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm not doing anything with lab rats, or we're not hooking up any women to testing equipment as far as making this a scientific way of eating. But we've had enough women go through this course now and establish this way of eating and emotionally balancing themselves with food and making sense of why it is that we're doing what we're doing, and being comfortable in a state of hungry and rationalizing for ourselves what it feels like to be in that energized sense of calm and fasting long enough to hopefully reach the state of ketosis by the way our body's feeling fat adaptive, and then not being so stressed out about testing all the time and measuring all the time and counting all the time. And it's something that we can do for a lifetime. And again, we want to know about these other ways, the fasting mimicking diet, the metabolic approach to cancer, the ketogenic diet, because the research is there. And if we have some grave situations in our lives, or we're feeling like we just need to get to that deep cellular level, or maybe you're like a biohacker kind of person and you love to put your body through these experimental stages and see what happens if you practice the fasting mimicking diet and you take 5 days out of your month and you follow this protocol. What happens to you? Do you see a benefit? Do you not see a benefit? There's always that plus too. And that's what I did for the year that I was learning how to become an effective intermittent faster, and how I could manage my life with the food that makes me happy, with being a mom and being a wife and liking to be with my girlfriends socially. How was it that I could create a lifestyle for myself and have it all, while making sure that I stayed in the healthiest possible state that I could be in for myself at 51 years old? And I found a nice, easy balance with intermittent fasting and living a keto-like lifestyle where I didn't necessarily have to go that deep. So I always say you want to be game ready. And game ready for me and with the women that I'm coaching in this community is do everything you can on an everyday basis that allows you to maintain what it is that we really strive for as women. And that's looking and feeling our best while living our most authentic life. And having in your hip pocket some of these other game changers where the scientific data is there for you to rely on and reach for if you ever found yourself in a situation where you had to fight for your life. And if you live healthy on a daily basis, healthy meaning you're putting yourself in a fasting environment long enough to let your body be in the initial stages of healing itself. And then when you open up your feasting window, you know the right kind of foods to fuel your body so that you can be at your absolute best every single day with nutrient-dense food choices, correcting what it is that maybe we've been holding on to our lives as women, being damaged by some of the emotional trauma and scars that we've been carrying around from failing at diets for so many years of our lives, and then living authentically within your life every single day. And if you can manage and marry all of those things in your nutritional life, then you found that harmony that we're all looking for, because you will be able to maintain your health and overall well-being, and you will be able to have a body that you're proud to walk around in, and you will feel confident in your own skin. And most importantly, you'll be happy within the life that you're living because you're not having to make so many drastic cuts to just feel like a normal person in your own day. And so do your research on all of these new intermittent fasting ways of living and all the findings that back them up. And then just ask yourself a question, is that something that you feel like is appropriate for you in your life today? Or is it one of those things that, yeah, I read that book and I think that that is something that I'm always going to keep kind of in the back of my mind if I ever need it, or if I ever know of anybody who might benefit from those things. And then I'm going to do my best every day to make sure that I don't necessarily have to reach to that resource. And I know for me, that's my goal. My goal is to live as consciously as I can with the food choices that I make, to know that I'm doing the best to fuel my body, and then create an environment for my body to do what its job is, and that's to keep itself healthy. And that's intermittent fasting for a good solid amount of my day in a nice clean fasted state, and then opening up my feasting window with some nutrient dense foods. I've proven that that part works because I'm as healthy as I've probably ever been without having to extreme diet or over exercise. And at 51 years old, this is the first time I've ever been able to say that I'm happy with my food and I'm happy with my fitness, and I'm taking neither one of those to extreme levels. Very casually living through my day. And we've had plenty of women in this environment who can say the same thing. So that's information that I think that it's worth a read, and it's worth doing your research. And like I said, I think these researchers are amazing. I have the utmost respect for them, and I will call on them anytime that I feel like I need them in my life. But for right now, living this life that's just a little bit more settled and just makes common sense, and maybe is not so extreme, and living it in a moderate, common sense way that you can manage every single day might be the best approach for most women, while taking the time on your journey to figure out why it is we got to a place where we were so unhappy in the first place. And that's just doing things in a little bit more moderate way that makes sense for our womanly body as we age. So I can't wait to hear if you guys have done some research on these types of things as well. And I'll welcome everyone and answer any comments that you guys might have. I appreciate you guys being here on a Tuesday afternoon here in Texas. Janet, good afternoon. Good to see you here, girlfriend. Colleen, good to have you here from Virginia Beach. Lynn Ann.
Wipe the Facebook camera.
Oh, okay. Hold on a second, Facebook. Michael said I had to wipe the camera. Okay, I think that's a little bit better. Let's see. Lynn Ann from You're getting your hair done. Oh, lucky you. Diane from from New England in the January course. Welcome. Another Diane. Good afternoon from Pennsylvania. Debbie, happy Tuesday. Holiday mini course. Loving all this great info. Awesome. Bev from Palm Beach, Florida. You're on vacation. So one woman on vacation and another one getting her hair done. You guys are living the good life. Rita from July. Broke my fast today with steamed broccoli and asparagus. So good. So nice to catch you live. It's my day off. Oh, good for you. Did you put any avocado oil on your broccoli or asparagus? That's my favorite way to make it. Cindy, good afternoon. Will you be doing any live videos on the fitness group? I'm loving these groups with the live videos. Yeah, Cindy, I will. We just had a little bit of the flu this weekend and I'm just coming back. So I will get some lives in the Passion Planner group and the fitness group one day this week. I just don't know yet. I haven't figured out my schedule fully for the week yet. Cindy, good afternoon. Christine, good to have you here. Carrie, good to have you here. Carrie, I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better. Jenny, good to have you here. Karma, Carrie from Vancouver, Washington. Maria, nothing better than following you. I started my fast at 3:30 for some reason. I can go 24 hours. Is that okay? Yeah, go ahead. See how you feel. Sharon from California. Jurasol from Los Angeles. Pamela Garvin, surprised to hear Walter Longo say he didn't like IF. It's bad to skip breakfast. Yeah, I don't, you know, this is why it's so worth it to figure things out for yourself, and why I always say take a little bit of something from every kind of approach and apply what makes sense for you. And that's because if you were to listen to Dr. Fung, who's also highly respected in this area of nutrition and self-healing, and you know, he thinks that it's ridiculous to eat breakfast, and he has all the data to prove that as well. So you know, it's everyone's personal philosophy based on the research that they're doing and putting in their book. And that's what I always say: be careful about following someone so dead hard who doesn't allow you the freedom to kind of do what makes your life work for you. And so, you know, you got to do you. And if what you're doing now is working for you, then why would you go back and eat breakfast if breakfast wasn't working for you? And so just take what applies to you is, I guess, the bottom line to that. And I thought it was fascinating too, but I don't need to eat breakfast every day. It wasn't doing me any good, and I definitely don't need to diet, and I don't need to bog my brain down with a bunch of numbers and what day do I eat what and what day do I not eat that, and I just can't do that anymore. So like I said, I will use it if I'm in a pinch, for sure. Debbie, snowy here in Atlanta. We were praying for snow here, Debbie, but just missed us, darn it. My kids would have loved that today to be out of school. Okay, let me see who I've got over here on YouTube. Got a big crowd over here, so I'll do my best to go through and welcome everyone as fast as I can. Joanne from the UK is here. Girlfriend, it's always good to see you. Elizabeth, hello. Jane from Melbourne, really enjoying the January course. Thank you for saying that. Love having you in it. Rebecca from Melbourne, good morning. So we got the morning, we got the late night, and we got the mid-afternoon. I absolutely love this international connection we got going on here. Kelly from South Carolina in the January course. Cindy from the Utah. Feeling amazing in week 2 of the January class. I love to hear it, Cindy. Jane from Melbourne as well. Bridget, hello from Washington, D.C. January course. Just eat 2 cakes during my fasting. Cake out horror. I don't get what that means. Hopefully those are some typos in there. Amelia, just joining, been on vacation, getting back on track immediately. Good. Oh, I thought it meant fasting time. Velma, hello. I have questions on type of diabetics, if it's safe for diabetics. My husband is type 1. His A1C went from 6.9 to 6.2 in 3 months. IF has helped him tremendously. Okay, so that's Pia answering Velma. Okay, so yeah, it depends on what type of diabetic he is, Velma. And then anytime you're under any kind of medical care or you know, taking any kind of prescription medication, it's always advised that you speak with your physician before doing anything. And then I always say go with your gut. So, but there is plenty of scientific data out there and research to show that intermittent fasting with a very balanced keto-like food lifestyle is very beneficial to diabetics. I was pre-diabetic. We have many of women in this community who were diabetic, started following these practices of intermittent fasting and managing what they were doing in their feasting window, and are no longer diabetic. So that would be ultimately a choice between you and your husband, and then you kind of go from there. Bridget, want to know, is 5 days fast and 2 days normal? Then you begin again your week 5-2. I don't fast for 5 days. And remember that what I was talking about with Dr. Longo is a fasting mimicking diet. So what that means is that you're kind of creating a mimicked fasting environment in your body, but you're really not fasting. You're just taking your macro levels to a certain level so that you put your body in a state of ketosis. What I do and what I recommend from the research that I've done and the practice that we've had in our community here is that you practice intermittent fasting, which is fasting and feasting within a 24-hour window. And scientific data is showing that anything over a 36-hour fast is really detrimental to your metabolic burn rate and slows your metabolism down. So I don't suggest 5 days of fasting personally. And if you're going to do something that is a water-only type of fast, you need to do that under medical supervision. Lisa, good to see you too, Lisa. Where you been? Jenna, hello. Lori Ann, happy Tuesday. Not sure where my previous message went. I like the simplicity of what we do. Knowing myself, I would probably fall back to old habits if I didn't do this every day. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Anytime there's some sort of protocol suggested where you do a specific thing that's very structured for 5 days and then you go back to your normal life, I always cringe, because that's where I fell into having the most problem with intermittent fasting, is when I was following a bunch of people who were practicing intermittent fasting for physique purposes and not health purposes. And that's exactly what they were doing. They were fasting for really long periods of time and then just ramming on whatever food they wanted to ram on. And to me, that didn't seem healthy. And it went against what I knew nutritionally from my years of being a health and fitness coach. And so that's where I was always, it took me a really long time to get into the intermittent fasting world, because that part of it didn't make sense for me. And it just was created this whole like window of these possibilities of I can eat whatever I want in my feasting window and my body's going to be fine. Well, we know you can't eat whatever you want. I mean, if I could eat whatever I want, I'd be kicking it on the couch right now with a bag of like chocolate covered, Little Debbie donuts and sipping some coffee loaded with hazelnut creamer. Like, if I could do whatever I want, that would be the ideal situation for me. But I know that doesn't make sense. And so it doesn't matter how long I fast, that kind of feasting environment won't work for me if I want to be healthy. And so as we age, that becomes so much more important to be really particular about what it is that we're going to put in our body, so that when we do enter the refeeding after we break a fast, that the nutrients that we put in our body are going to be used to optimize what we just came out of in a fasting window and not be detrimental to us and what we're trying to do or repair our body for the long haul. So it kind of worries me as well. Doreen, hello from Scotland. Lauren, can your body adjust to this just like a regular diet or stall weight loss? Yes and no. So the way I teach intermittent fasting in a keto-like lifestyle is that there's nothing that's a constant, because our bodies aren't constant. So I'm constantly changing up my fasting and my feasting now. When I was in the healing process of things, I think it was a little bit more structured in the fact that I fasted for the same amount of time every day, almost like to the number, because I loved the way I felt when it was in my fasted state. I could feel my body healing. Now that I'm healed, I handle it in a different way, and I just sort of let my body intuitively tell me when it's time to break my fast, and it just naturally falls around the 18th to the 20th hour. And then I will always eat nutrient-dense foods because I just don't feel well any other way. So my feasting doesn't really change as much anymore, which is funny because it's usually the opposite way. But I just let my body kind of intuitively run the show. That helps a lot for me. Polly, yeah, I've heard the man was attacking the police, but on a political matter. It was no offense made. Still, though, the police is bringing him to court. I'd like to hear your side on the scandal. Polly, I have no idea what you're talking about. April from Albuquerque. Let's see. What else we got over here? Marcine, hello from Poland. Chris, January course, do you get better results by being more consistent with your fasting hours when you're healing? Like, there's days I can get to 23 or 24 of fasting, then other days 20 or less. Okay, so in my personal experience, the sweet spot is 20 plus. So I would say if you can get to 20 plus, that means 20 hours with a 4-hour feasting window or a 1 meal a day type of feasting protocol. That's usually the best environment for healing with nutrient-dense food in your feasting window, is what we have found in our course. So that would be the best advice I can give you, is consistency, yes, 20 plus hours. Cheryl, I keep trying to fast, find myself eating about 12 hours during the work week, then trying to fast till the next day at dinner. Also, when I do eat from fasting, I eat fast and not necessarily healthy. Yeah, Cheryl, that's kind of like that personal choice aha moment thing. And I believe you're registered for our February course, so we'll get you straightened out in February. Am I understanding that it's a fast from 1 meal to the next day, same meal, or 1 meal a day? Cheryl, you're going to learn all that if you're in our February course. Trudy, hello, girlfriend. Beth from San Antonio. Girl, I know you guys are cold down there for sure. Let's see, Lauren from South Carolina. Trying IF the last couple of days. I like it. Just curious about implications. What kind of implications? Joanne, IF is the easiest way of eating and control of food and health. Don't need anything complicated. Yeah, me neither, girlfriend. Catherine, great to watch and not fall asleep. Current student of November grad. And she's saying that not because it's boring. She's saying that because she'd have to watch really late at night, right? Catherine. Elizabeth, did my first 36-hour fast yesterday. It was great. Broke it with eggs and half avocado this morning at 8 a.m. Yeah, I bet you're feeling amazing, Elizabeth. Sophia, I skip breakfast and fast until 12 or 1 p.m. Stop at 6 p.m. That sounds good. Susan, here in Ohio, snowstorm. Oh, sorry. Lauren, thanks for your answer. Yeah, you bet. Okay, let me see who else is over here on Facebook. I feast best when I don't eat breakfast or lunch. I was just surprised at his comment. Yeah, that's because it's not his protocol. And remember, you know, when you're in the course, I shared with you guys like the very common fasting protocols, 16-8, 18-6, 24, 1 meal a day, all those kind of things. And then I shared with you what works in our course and how we renamed them. We renamed them for a specific reason, and that is our emotional state of when we hear certain words, right? So you have to remember that everyone develops their own protocol based on their scientific data. I kind of wish now that I was a scientist in the nutrition world, because I would love to create this protocol and write a book about intermittent fasting and the keto-like lifestyle and what it's done to help women not only cure their bodies, but help them emotionally understand food a little bit better. I mean, we have this nice double-edged sword in our community that we're healing ourselves on so many different levels, and we're taking all the stress out of it. We're not counting calories, we're not counting macros, we're not freaked out about social events, we're not, beating ourselves up over failing or feeling like we're failing. We're learning to listen to the signs and signals that our body is sending us, and that's powerful. So you can remember, complicated doesn't necessarily mean good. Complicated sometimes just means that that's what it takes to get clinical research done, and we have to give credit where credit is due and respect that clinical research, because that's that stuff, like I said, that I will fall back on when I am in a pinch. I'm just not in a pinch anymore. I was able to take care of those surface level things that were kind of annoying and could have become a problem had I not caught them early enough. But now I know what to do to maintain. And again, if I'm in a situation where I'm out of control of maintaining that, I will go and dig into one of these more structured programs, because that's when I think that they will become effective for me in that period of my life. Renee, I'm at work, made it to my 24-hour fast today and felt great. Looking forward to listening later. Awesome. Angela from the Netherlands. Welcome. Patty, very interesting here from Fort Worth, Texas. And girlfriend, you're just right down the road. Let's see what else we got here. Cheryl, good to have you. Debbie, snowy in Atlanta. Pamela, already did that one. Maria, you have our snow in Pennsylvania. You have snow in Pennsylvania? You can have our snow? No, we don't want your snow from Pennsylvania. We are totally fine sending the kids to school today. Wendella, good evening from Sweden. Everything works great. Fasted for 22 hours. Our time, it's 10:30 in the evening. Well, thanks for staying up late with us. And Angela, hi, and good evening from Eindhoven, the Netherlands. 16:08 over here, works fine, feeling great, bedtime for me. Awesome. Well, Angela, go have a good night's sleep and enjoy your fast and feast tomorrow as well. Okay.
Careful on YouTube.
What?
Careful on YouTube. Carrot
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I always go there. I always pause so that she can get a hold of them. Lauren, you're welcome for your answer for sure. Thanks for asking a question. It always makes things much more interesting here. Okay, cool. So, bottom line, do your research. I say read these books. I'm constantly purchasing books and reading them and having little aha moments and taking little tidbits from them to implicate or to establish in my own life. And even when I'm teaching the course that we teach here that starts in February on the 3rd, my main goal is to not have you feast and fast like I do. My main goal is to teach you how to feast and fast so that you can be your best you. And just take some time to slow down and figure out what it is that you need to do to be your best version of you, following your own protocol for fasting and feasting that's designed by the signs and signals that your body is sending you. So if you're a woman that's feeling confused, you don't know what to do with food anymore, you want to join a great community of women who are here to support you and help you on your journey, we do have our next course starting on February 3rd. Registration is open. Kara has posted links on both sites, YouTube and Facebook. We love having new women in our community. It is absolutely fascinating. You've seen some of the comments here today. We're not even done with week 2 yet, and women are feeling absolutely amazing, balancing out their hormones, figuring out which foods work best for them, figuring out their own fasting and feasting protocols, and really having a great time just slowing things down and uncomplicating what we get sort of caught up in by some of the hype that's going around. So if you're doing something that's working for you, don't feel like you have to jump ship. Just keep doing what you're doing and refine what it is you have going on so that it can just get better for you. Sophia, I'm combining Weight Watchers with IF. What do you feel about that? It's working. Sophia, you just answered your own question. I say if it's working, then it's working. I think that is a great approach for you. And I say until it stops working, just stick with it because it's probably making your life really simple. And so that's the best thing you can do for yourself. Eileen, let me see, Jane, I highly recommend the course. I thought I knew a lot beforehand and I'm surprised at how much I've learned. Yeah, Jane, thanks for saying that. And you know what's amazing? I learned something from every course too, because so many women come in with their own unique stories that it really does kind of help open my eyes to a lot of things as well. So, so I love the openness that you guys have in the community as well. Sophia, where do you start as a beginner, want to lose 15 pounds? Sophia, I would say start with registering for our course that starts on February 3rd. We take you from day 1 all the way through the end of the course, where you'll be so much more confident about what to do when you're fasting and how to fast correctly to get the maximum results, and then what you can do in your feasting window and how you make sense of all of that in your everyday life. So 15 pounds should be pretty easy for you to be able to lose once you learn how to do all that correctly for your own body type. Okay, so thanks so much for joining me for a Tuesday afternoon little discussion. Like I said, I highly recommend doing some advanced research yourself. Research all this information, with an open mind and see what might be applicable to you. See if you learned something new from a new book you read or a new podcast you listened to. But by all means, what you should never do is go revamp your life based on a little bit of data that you just received because you think it's going to be the magic cure-all for you. Trust me, it won't be the magic cure-all for you. That you really need to take the time to identify what it is that your body is trying to tell you at this stage in your life, and then creating your own plan that will make you happiest and healthiest while you're on this journey creating a new lifestyle for yourself. So again, thank you so much for being here with me. I will see you guys tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be back to the nighttime schedule tomorrow. And then if you like this time frame, I will be here on Thursday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll have another great conversation about something that has to do with fasting and feasting. Have a good day.
3 p.m.
What did I say, 2? Oh, 3 p.m. Sorry, guys. 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday.